Hi, we're Nia and Marianne from Seren Health Coaching. We are metabolic health coaches who are passionate about good metabolic health for everyone. We also love to chat about all things health and to share as much information as we can with people who want to make changes to their lifestyle but aren't quite sure where to start. We're going to release a new episode every Friday where we talk about a different aspect of health. So do subscribe and let us know what you think. We'd also love to know what you're interested in too. So if there's something that you'd like us to have a chat about, do send us a message and we'll do our best to cover it soon.
Hi, Nia.
Hello.
Today we're going to talk about something I know you're really keen on,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd really like you to convince me to be keener, actually, because I struggle slightly with fermented food and getting it into my diet.
Mm.
So we know there's a lot of talk in health circles about fermented foods at the moment. So why do you think? I want you really to convince me. Why
Okay.
should I? What's the pluses and how?
Okie dokes. So shall we start at the beginning?
Yep.
Why
Yep.
people
What
want
is
to
it?
use them? Okay, so
Yep.
you all have heard about your gut microbiome.
Yep.
So that's quite a
Yep.
key part of this. So it's made up of lots of different microbes. So it's termed like another organ, even though it's not actually a
Mm.
solid state organ like your heart or your pancreas or anything. But basically, it's made up of bacteria, but also fungi and protozoa and viruses. And everybody's gut microbiome is different. So yours is different to mine is different to my husband's, etc., etc. But we need these microbes. It sounds really weird, doesn't it, that you've got microbes in
Mm.
your gut, but
And
we
they
actually need
live.
them. Yeah, they're alive. Yeah. But we need them to break down the food that we eat. They help us to release some of the nutrients from the food that we eat. And they also help us to make some essential vitamins that we can't make without these microbes.
Okay.
Also, if you take any type of medication, that's what breaks down some of the medication and makes it available to your body to use.
Right.
And it also plays a big part in supporting your immune system.
So, where exactly is your microbiome?
Well, that's a good question. Um, so your gut microbiome sort of starts in your stomach. There are some bacteria and microbes there. Then there's a little bit in your small intestine as your nutrients get absorbed from there. The main amount of microbes and fungi and bacteria are in your large intestine.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
sort of
That's
all
interesting.
throughout the gut in
Yeah.
varying proportions.
Yeah.
But apparently it weighs about 2 kilos. So that's interesting, isn't
So
it?
that sort of jungle, forest, whatever you want to imagine it as, this bacteria, I
Yeah.
sort of imagine it as a sort of internal jungle through
Yeah, I like
your,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
but
with your
all in yeah,
bacteria running round. And it's
yeah,
2 kilos worth of
of
bacteria we're
yeah,
talking about,
of bacteria,
of
viruses,
inhabitants of your
fungi.
microbiome.
Yeah,
Incredible.
mad, isn't it?
Incredible.
The other thing that it does is it maintains something called the gut mucosal barrier,
Yeah.
which is really necessary because remember when you eat food and it goes into your stomach, we have a stomach acid, don't we, which is very, very acidic, like pH 1 or 2 hydrochloric acid, which breaks down your food. We need that, otherwise we can't actually digest food. But if that was in contact with the actual epithelial layer of our guts, we would have serious problems from that, and you can get something called a leaky gut system. um, so we don't want to damage our digestive system with the acid, basically.
So having a healthy microbiome is protective, and it's useful for absorption, and
Hmm.
it's breaking down nutrients. So
Yes,
that's why you want one. Yeah.
that's why you want one, absolutely. And also it protects you from external
Yeah.
nasties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you was, when
Hmm.
you eat fermented food, you've got very high acidity in your stomach.
You do.
Does that not annihilate a fair amount of those
Ah,
fermenting bacteria?
so I think that's a really good question, and one that you think about, isn't it? Because everything you eat goes into that
Mm,
pool of
mm,
hydrochloric acid in your
yeah,
stomach, and it's broken down.
yeah,
But no, so bacteria and funguses and viruses are very, very clever, and they evolved to be able to tolerate those low pHs,
Okay.
those acidic environments. So they do actually get through without being damaged. It's the same as some medication that you swallow that gets
Yes.
broken down further along in your
Mm.
intestinal tract, not in your stomach. So, for example, um, a really common tablet that lots of people will have taken in their lives is aspirin. Okay. If it breaks down in your stomach, it can cause a lot of gastric problems, so
Yes.
stomach ache,
Yeah.
reflux, and pain. Because of that, scientists developed what was called a gastric resistant coating. So
Yeah.
it doesn't break down till later on. So think of
Right.
your microbiome, think of these bacteria, these funguses as having a coating on them that
Yeah.
protects them from that
Okay.
stomach
How
acid.
clever. Because
Yeah.
the probiotics that we use are often in a capsule form that presumably gives them safe passage
Yes.
through that stomach
Yeah,
into
absolutely.
somewhere that they're more useful for. I
Yes,
presume
absolutely.
some of them, the capsule lasts even longer and they go further down.
It depends where you want that to break down, and
Mm,
because of the way that the science works, they will look at where those
yeah,
should be
where they want
targeted,
them.
and
Yeah.
then the capsule will dissolve in that place. Yeah, absolutely.
So if I empty my capsule out into my smoothie,
Mm.
I might be destroying some research chemist's entire lifetime of work.
Yes. Can you not think of the poor research chemists, Marianne, before you do that? Yes. So there is the possibility, that depending on
Yes,
what
depending.
the strain is
Mm.
and where it's activated, definitely um it should be considered that sometimes there is a good reason why the packet says do not
Right. I
remove from
always
the
know
capsule.
I always know better, and yeah, that's the thing. But I think because real food is probably better in terms of giving me a healthy microbiome rather than the added supplements, the idea of emptying the supplement into the real food sort of makes sense because I think I'll hide it in there and
My pharmacist brain is now screaming at
yes,
you.
okay. So yes, this is the illogical bit of the sort of,
I totally get
natural bit of
that,
me. Yeah.
we also, part of my career as a pharmacist was, can this person can't swallow their tablet, how can they take it?
Yeah.
And the nurses would say, "Well, we can just crush it up and give it to them
Yeah,
in
it
a
doesn't work
spoonful of
like that.
yogurt." And like, well, no, you can't actually do that because the drug itself binds to the proteins in the yogurt and then it doesn't get absorbed. And there's all this
Oh,
other stuff to
yeah.
think about. I know, I'm so sorry.
Hmm.
I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
anyway, I'll stop emptying it out.
Yeah,
I
please
thought I
do.
was doing myself a favor. That's
Swallow
really
it.
interesting. That's really interesting.
So it's really sort of funny when you talk about your gut health, but a lot of people know about it because they'll have come and said, "Oh, I need to take a probiotic because I've had a course of antibiotics."
I
So
bet you got a lot of that.
I
Yeah.
used to get a lot of that, yeah, or people going on holiday and be like, "Oh, I want to take some probiotics so that I
To
don't get a
protect
funny
me from
tummy."
the terrible things I'm about to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for people who are poorly and need to take antibiotics, because obviously sometimes
Yeah.
you do, um, I mean, they're great. They're brilliant
Mm.
medications in that they eradicate the infection. But what they do is because they're usually quite broad in
Yeah.
their
Application.
spectrum, in their
Mm.
application, yeah, they get rid of all the good ones as well as the bad ones. So they get rid of all
Okay.
the bad bacteria that are making you sick, but they also, unfortunately, get rid of the good ones, which we can't do anything about.
No.
But what we need to do, so both once you've had a course of antibiotics, but also depending on what kind of diet you've had before, is maintain a balance. So we need to get more good ones back in, and it's sort of a displacement effect. The more good ones you've got, the less bad ones can be there. And the good bacteria also help to get rid of the bad bacteria by synthesizing certain substances.
So in some countries, interestingly, when you have an antibiotic, you take a probiotic with it.
Yeah,
In the UK, that
we
isn't
don't.
offered.
Yeah. So a lot of people come and say, "Well, can I buy a probiotic?"
Mm.
But there are other ways of getting probiotics into your
Okay.
diet.
I know you're
And
going
the
to tell me it's fermented food, aren't you?
well, yeah, kind of big spoiler alert. But the other thing is that obviously, you've got this really well-known antibiotic example, but the other thing is that it's not just for people who've had a course of antibiotics.
No.
if you are not eating a good diet of whole food, if you're eating a lot of ultra processed or highly processed food, if you're not getting a lot of variety in your sources of plants, or if you're not having a lot of fiber, that also is affecting your gut
Mm,
microbiome. So there's a bit more to it than um,
okay.
just that.
And what I also know is that there is talk about the microbiome being involved in weight management, which of course is also interesting. I suspect we don't know all there is to know yet about the microbiome, but uh,
No.
is is it involved in weight management, do you think?
Well, it is certainly thought that it does play a part. Yes,
Right.
absolutely. And one of the key jobs that your microbiome does is digests fiber from the food that you eat,
Yeah.
which is why it's so important to eat plant sources of fiber and why it's so
Mm,
important to eat different sources of plants, because diversity gives you different types of fiber. Um, and when that's broken down, they produce something called a short chain fatty acid, and that actually helps you to regulate your blood sugar, your blood fats, keeps your appetite under control. Yay.
okay.
So yes, there is a role to play in weight management, which I think we certainly don't know all about yet.
It's complicated. Mm.
But isn't it interesting to know that just by looking after your gut, you could affect your weight as
Yeah, so
well?
eating enough fiber, and unfortunately, in the Western world, we do not get enough fiber. So
We
that's obviously
don't.
something that affects our microbiomes and therefore our ingestion of food. Yeah,
Yeah.
it all makes
I
sense.
think
It's
I
all
think
hooked
sort of
up, isn't it?
yeah, it's all hooked up. A lot of people who are maybe looking to balance their gut, and improve their microbiome find that things like constipation are helped because they are actually
Mm.
doing more for their guts. So yeah, so we need to get these good microbes in, competition for the space so we get more of the good microbes, less of the bad ones, and we improve our microbiome overall.
So what are fermented foods then? I mean, what are they? Are we just swallowing a load of microbes?
No. So they are live. Yep, they're live
Right.
cultures, and they do help you maintain this balance. So think of it like, when your cheese goes off in the fridge, or what
Yeah.
if you don't put it in the fridge, it will go off. And if you get the bad microbes on your cheese, then it will decay your food. So you'll get that white
Mm.
fungus or you'll get the green mold. That's not what you want. But fermented foods use the same chemical reaction, but they're with the good microbes, not the ones that cause decay. And
Okay.
so, what that means is there's fermentation, which keeps the food preserved and edible for longer, which has been used for centuries.
Yeah.
And there are lots of different examples of fermented foods that we can choose from, which is great because not everybody wants to have the same stuff.
So where I grew up, we they used to drink sour milk, which was
Mm,
basically milk that had gone off, as we
yeah,
saw it. But in hot countries it goes off quickly.
yes.
But that was obviously a type of fermented food.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, if we didn't know that that milk went off, we wouldn't have made things like yogurt and cheese
Yeah.
and,
So
all of those kind
so
of things.
yogurt comes to mind as being one of the probably most common fermented foods.
Yeah, so live yogurt is a really, really good fermented food. You'll have
Mm.
also heard of, well, a lot of people will have heard of sauerkraut because that's
Yeah.
just a well-known
Yeah.
German food, fermented cabbage. Many people will now have heard of kimchi, which
Yeah.
is spicy fermented vegetables. And then there's other things like kombucha, which is a fermented tea, pickled vegetables, and then kefir, which is something that I make, which
You
is
do?
fermented
Yeah.
milk. You can also get water kefir, should you wish to.
Yeah.
Um, Miso, fermented soybeans. So a lot of
Ah, yes,
people will use
miso.
miso
Yeah.
paste and things like that,
Yeah.
and some artisanal cheese. And there's also sort of things like sourdough, but it's
Yeah.
really difficult to kind of
Mhm.
suggest that as a great food because sometimes when you heat these fermented foods, you actually
You
get
lose
rid
the
of the
the pluses.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
also, um, there's a huge debate over sourdough and faux dough, as they call it, where it's not
Mm.
quite sourdough, so you have to be a bit careful when you're
So
talking
how
about that.
much actually gets to to feed your microbes? Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Okay. All right. And so the Japanese diet obviously has a lot of fermented foods.
It
in it,
does, yeah. So I
which,
think that might explain
yeah, they might
why
explain
they
some of the
do fit
health
well.
benefits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so if I wanted to include more, so I really do want to include more fermented foods. Obviously, the easy ones are the yogurts of the world, which
Mhm.
is pretty easy, and kombucha is pretty easy. Although I'm very suspicious of commercially made
Yeah.
kombucha. But and kefir, obviously, very easy to make at home and really a no-brainer because it's just milk and you keep it with your kefir grains and it's really easy, a bit like yogurt,
Mm.
easy to. But the pickled vegetables are harder for me
Mm.
because they're not sort of something I think about. So I have some scrambled eggs and I have to be really aware of the ability to put things like kimchi on all sorts of
Yeah.
foods
Yeah.
because it's not really in my autopilot, I suppose. So
Yeah.
that might be something for me to think about.
Mm. You've got to make it easy. Um,
Mm,
so I think the easiest one is live yogurt.
yeah,
And you've got to find a good live yogurt because, as you
yeah.
said,
There's
you have
yogurts and
to be
yogurts.
there's yogurts and yogurts.
Yeah,
So I actually went online to have a look because I buy a yogurt that I know has got a good amount of live cultures in,
yeah,
but I thought, oh, let's go and have a look what everybody else is on about. And of
yeah.
course, there's these high protein, low fat, gut healthy messages on the label, and it's all mad, none of it's true, or it's
Yeah,
got,
I mean, always a bit worrying if it says anything like that.
yeah,
So
so
I
it,
buy one that doesn't say that.
yeah, me too. So it basically all our advice obviously
Yeah,
usually is go really simple. So if you
yeah, yeah,
can eat dairy yogurt, which obviously
yeah.
not
Not
everyone
everybody
can,
can. Yeah,
but if you can, go for a Greek yogurt or a natural yogurt, and all you're looking for when you're looking at the ingredients is made with whole milk and live bacterial cultures. And if it's got anything else in it,
yeah.
it's
Don't
getting
go
towards
there.
an ultra processed food.
Like thickeners, like emulsifiers,
Yeah,
like
like your gums,
sweeteners, like
sweeteners,
yeah.
sugars, yeah.
Okay.
So when you look at it and you think, "Oh, no, but what is all of this?" There's obviously some lovely Latin names which are used to
Yeah,
describe the live culture.
yeah,
So you're looking for like Bifidobacterium or Lactobacillus acidophilus, Streptococcus thermophilus, but usually, they're written in italics. They can also be, abbreviated, so they'll say L. acidophilus or L.
okay.
casei or whatever. Those are fine because those are the live cultures that you need.
Yeah,
That means you're feeding your microbiome, but you don't want guar gum, thickeners,
no.
emulsifiers,
Okay.
all that jazz.
And there's no excuse if you're dairy free, because I suppose yogurt is so easy to eat. Probably kefir is as well. But if you're dairy free, I mean, the
Mm,
Japanese are generally dairy free, many of them.
yeah.
It's not a culture based on dairy. So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they can eat enough fermented foods,
Then we can
then
too.
then we
Yeah.
can too.
I
It's
mean, look,
just a
if you
matter of getting them into your diet and thinking about, that kimchi you've got in the fridge
yeah.
and putting it on the side of your plate when you're eating salads or even
Yeah.
scrambled egg or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, not everybody has to eat yogurt. I only say that because it is literally the
Well, it's
simplest thing to get
most
in.
people eat yogurt. Yeah.
Yes. If you are dairy free, either by choice or by necessity, then obviously there are soy based yogurts. There's coconut milk and almond milk yogurts. And again, just use your common
Yeah, the
sense. Make
trouble
sure
with
that
all of the plant yogurts is they often have additives because it's
they
not so
do.
easy to make
Yeah,
the
and they're not as thick,
fermentation, I think.
they're quite
Mm.
runny, but
Yes.
that's okay. So just have a look at maybe
Yeah.
which ones have less thickeners in. They will have vitamins added to the thing. I don't know why this is, and I can only assume because dairy products will have vitamins as part of the natural product of milk because it will
Yeah, so
contain
therefore they
vitamins.
add them to the
So
plant
therefore
milks.
they add it to make it equivalent.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I get
so
that. I
that's
sort of get
fine.
that. It's not really milk, plant milk. It's not
No,
milk from the
it's
cow.
not.
It's milk from plants, which is a
Yeah.
really or nuts
It's a
or
plant.
seeds. It's very
Yeah,
different, isn't it?
yeah. So I
Okay.
think, don't worry if it says added vitamins, that's fine. So the easy stuff, milk kefir, super easy to do yourself at home. You just buy some grains from a reputable supplier, you activate them, and I've had mine for going on for no, nearly 5 years now. Kevin, my little starter culture, as he's called, Kevin the
And
kefir.
what do you do when you go on holiday?
You can put him in the fridge for 2 weeks and he's
Okay.
fine.
Just they stagnate a bit.
Yeah, and you can even freeze the kefir grains. So if you get too many, you can freeze them. So if
Okay.
you were going on holiday for longer, you could freeze
Mm.
a batch of your grains without worrying about it and then reactivate them when you get home.
And of course, we do make yogurt at home, you and I, some of the time.
We do, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes we make yogurt at home, really easy. You can make your own sauerkrauts or
Yeah.
kimchi. I've done sauerkraut, not done kimchi yet. But if you're short on time, I'm not suggesting
Yeah, you
everybody
can buy
makes
fairly
loads of
good
them.
ones.
But
Yeah.
buy the good ones, buy the kimchi, buy the sauerkraut that's in the chilled area of the
Okay.
supermarket rather than off the shelf, because they will
Yeah.
have all the preservatives that you don't want and the
Yeah. Yeah.
sweeteners and
Yeah.
the
Like
flavour
all these
enhancers.
things.
And I looked at one
Yeah.
of them and it's got wheat flour in it, and I
Really.
couldn't understand why. I mean,
No.
it's not great for
Thickening of
celiacs, is
some
it?
sort, probably. Yeah,
It's
it's
just
thicker.
bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, put them with everything. So I have
Just
kimchi
start getting in
often.
the habit of putting it on your plate. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's
and
my problem. It's not that I don't particularly like them. It's just that it's
got to
not
put
in
them in
my
the
sort of
habit.
autopilot.
Yeah, but the other thing is, don't do it alone. Make sure you're eating plenty of variety of vegetables because, as we said right at the beginning, you need the fiber, and
Mm.
there's prebiotics, probiotics, and
Yeah.
postbiotics. You've got to have it all working together. You've got to give the microbes something to feed on. You've got to be able to use the benefits of the microbes at the end. So it's all related. So don't just go, oh, well, I'll have a spoonful of kimchi every day and I'll be grand. You actually have to take the other things into account as well. So adding the fiber, adding the variety of different vegetables for your microbes to feed on will give you a much healthier gut at the end of it. I
Well,
like that.
there's those little shots that people buy
Yeah.
with the idea that there's a quick, easy way to just take a little shot of something that is flavored, by the way, with something else, often
Mm,
honey, sugars,
yeah.
berries, and that's done for the day. And then, if you eat junk diet, it doesn't really matter. And of course, it's A, not
Cool.
like that, but B, it's a very expensive way to do it.
It really
Uh,
is.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
really is. Okay.
The other
If only
just
we'd thought of it,
final.
yeah, we could have made a lot of money.
Oh well, it's one of those other things, Mary. We could
Always too late, always too late. We could have had those little
always too late
shots.
to the party,
Anyway, yeah.
and always too moral to fleece other
Yeah,
people as
too
well. That's
moral,
the
too
problem.
late. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
my
that's
my
lovely. I'm
final
inspired.
parting gift for you
Yeah.
is that although these probiotics are fabulous, please don't start adding them to every single meal if you're going from naught,
No.
because
0 to 60, yes.
you're going
A
to get a
lot of
bad tummy.
flatulence?
Well,
Gas?
yes, and then
Yes.
maybe a little bit of diarrhea and some cramp.
Okay.
So please just, have
Go
a shot of
slow.
your kefir in the morning,
Yeah.
and then maybe once you've got used to that, then you can add the kimchi.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
don't go
Yeah,
mad.
interesting.
My
I'm
case for
inspired
bad
to
tummy.
just get more into the habit of
Mm,
adding kimchi because it's an easy add. It's in my fridge. It's just that
yeah.
I don't always think of it.
Yeah,
Lovely.
and I think
Thanks
the
for
more
that.
we know, the more we know
Yeah,
about fermented food and our gut microbiome, the more we'll see how
yeah.
important
How important it is. Yeah,
adding these
for
things
lots of
in
things.
is.
Yeah.
Mm,
And weight
yeah, and
management might well be one of them, which, for our world is
yeah.
a really useful thing to know. And who knows what else, Who knows
Oh,
whether
absolutely.
if you fed all kids some kefir when they got to school, whether they do better or be more energetic or, I don't
Bounce
know,
back
sleep
from
better. Who
illness
knows?
or
Who
or
knows?
prevent,
Yeah,
some of the
yeah. Who
bugs
knows
from
what the
going round.
benefits, how far they would stretch.
Yeah,
Right, I'm
absolutely.
inspired to do better.
Off you
Thank you very
go.
much
You
for
can
that.
send me a picture of your lunch with your. Well, you did
I
send me a picture,
will.
didn't you, of your scrambled eggs with your
Yeah,
kimchi, which I enjoyed.
scrambled egg with kimchi, and I really enjoyed it actually, and thought, why did I not think of this before?
Ah,
Right.
now you do.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye
Bye.
for now.